All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Luke Safford, Director of Engagement and Education for Tucson Audubon. And I always love these different Zoom events, seeing people from all over the nation, really all over the world. And I know we have people from Ohio and Virginia and Washington. And I know some of these things that we talk about eBird, you can use right there wherever you're at. But do really hope to sometimes see you here in Tucson and maybe go birding with you and work through eBird together, not over Zoom, but in person would be great. So what we're going to do today is the title of today's talk is Entering the eBird Wormhole. And wormhole, I just came up with this idea of thinking through like, wow, sometimes I get trapped in eBird and I just like looking through all these different things. I lose track of time. It just kind of sucks you in. There's so much there. It's really fun to just explore. And I know many people I come across when I'm leading walks or talking with people, just lots of questions about eBird. And I think sometimes we don't, even myself, like we don't understand all the different things it can do for us. And so we're going to just look at a bit of that. I want to encourage you, if you're here on the session with us right now, to ask questions if you have any, chime in with different thoughts that you might have, and we'll explore this together. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get into eBird, and hopefully that comes through. There's a nice Kill Bill toucan there in front of you. And so there's two main functions of eBird that, just from the very beginning, like finding birds from all over the world. You can use it to find birds anywhere you're going, whether right where you live or if you're traveling somewhere. It's just amazing resource. And then exploring the locations. So those are like two of the main functions. What I thought would be kind of fun first, and actually I just saw that. So this is the front eBird home screen. And I don't know how familiar y'all are with eBird, but I just want to go over this real quick. The front screen has some of your stats over here on the left. So once you start entering in submissions, those numbers change, how many checklists you have, how many species with photos, those sorts of things. Checklist day streak, that's kind of fun. Some people do that, or are really on that. And you can scroll down and see the different functions that eBird has. So just give an idea of how often eBird is used by people. You can see how many checklists have been submitted. Over 74 million complete. Those are complete checklists. So I'll show you the difference between complete and not complete checklists. That's an insane number, isn't it? Over 74 million complete checklists. You can see how many eBirders there are. We're getting close to that 1 million mark. So if some of you haven't started eBird yet, I may not go through all the rigmarole of how to start your eBird thing today. We're mostly looking at what it can do for us once we're already in it. But feel free to reach out to me and I can help get you connected with starting your eBird experience. So 828,000, you can see the different leaders for regions when it comes to species and checklists. Of course, it's most popular in the United States. And then it contains all these different photos that you can sort through the Macaulay Library, just amazing photos. And you can even go into these photos and rate them. Maybe we'll look at that today too. That's always kind of fun to rate other people's photos. In fact, let's just do that real quick. That's kind of fun. So, oh, that's the wrong button. So if you, we'll do that later. We'll go to that later. Has all these audio. These are rarities. You can see the little yellow exclamation point that it's unconfirmed. One of the questions that someone sent in was how, who decides whether it's confirmed or unconfirmed report. So like if you see the white-winged scoters up there at the Kiwanis Park in Phoenix, and you document those, who decides whether that's a confirmed report or not. We'll talk about that. And then, okay, down here, where did that go? There's a really cool thing that I want to show you. And where is, oh, maybe it's on the, it actually shows all the different eBird. I think it's under Explore. I wanted to start with this. I should have had it right now. Okay, yes, submission map. Watch in real time as people submit their sightings from across the globe. So this is January 19th. I don't have any of you, I don't know if any of you have ever watched this, but this will show people actively submitting their eBird checklist in real time. And then there's going to be like a little yellow thing that pops up when someone submits it. And I watched it right before this, and oh, there's one couple right there in the United States. So this is like active real time people submitting checklists and hitting the submit button on their laptop or from their phone. I just thought it was pretty incredible. Oh, there's one over there in the Middle East, down in South America. Geez, yeah. So we're part of something here that's really big, really widespread. And what that means with being part of something like this, it puts at our fingertips an amazing amount of knowledge, amazing amount of information that we can use to find white-winged scoters, that we can use to go and find vermilion flycatchers and explore the different areas that we live. So let's dig into that. I want to start by looking at the Explore button and talking about how to find some different birds. Now, as we go through this, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions. Say, hey, Luke, I want to dig deeper into that. Or Luke, wait, I need to know some backstory on something. You know, clarification is good. So from the main eBird site right here, you got submit, explore, my eBird, which shows you all of your different lists and everything. We'll probably get into that. There's a science button. Let's click on the science button here real quick. I don't know as much about the eBird science button, but what it does do is, one of the things that I have used it for is going in and looking at status and trends of different birds. We'll do that first. Let's do that. And what it does is it shows you like a heat map of where birds are located during breeding season, during their wintering on their wintering grounds, and during migration. So if we type in common merganser, for instance, and then we click on that, and let's make this bigger so we can see it. Just look at the United States. Mergansers, or common mergansers, are found throughout the world, really. But here in the United States, you can see different colors here that represent year-round, breeding season, non-breeding. That's all over here on the right side. And you can click on these little buttons over here. Let's just look at breeding season. So if you're wondering about a certain species and you want to know where it's breeding, you know, we have our bird guides for that. We can see the color map on our Sibley or in our Kaufman Field Guide and see that. But if we want to use eBird and see what's actually being reported, you can see it this way. You can see abundance. You can even go to weekly. So you just click on this weekly right here, and then it'll show you, all right, in the past week where common merganser has been seen. And you can see the heat maps, purple being most abundant, yellow being least abundant. And then you can go in here closer and closer this way. And you can see a little bit about like, all right, so if I want to see common merganser, where in this area would I go? That's one way of doing it. Now, the way that I normally do it, though, let's go to Explore. Explore is my favorite function of eBird. And from the Explore function, you have some options. Let me tell you about some of the options, and I'll tell you what my favorite is and for what purpose. If we want to start by exploring a bird species, we could type it in here. Let's leave this part. This is region, so we'll stop. We'll not do that yet. hotspots, don't want to touch that. You could do species maps. You could search photos and sounds for it. Let's start with explore species. So you can type in common merganser. And what this does is it's kind of like an eBird field guide for the bird. It gives you some pictures, both usually male, female, juveniles, and then also up at the top, it gives you some very similar bird species. So like in taxonomic order, you can go on either side of common merganser for other closely related birds. And of course, all the bird pictures there. It'll tell you whether it's a vulnerable or endangered or least concerned species. It'll tell you whether you've seen it, photographed it, have an audio of it, whether you've seen it this year. So I haven't seen it this year yet. I have seen it before. Gives you all the identification stuff. Tells you how many times it's been observed in eBird. Over 2 million observations of common merganser are recorded in eBird. For me, 190. How many photos? Over 71,000 photos. Now this map right here, I find it's not very helpful. So like a lot of the stuff on this page is really helpful. The map, it just gives you kind of abundance, overall abundance. Like if you hit this plus and you start zeroing in on it, it just stays, it doesn't actually go into hotspots or take you to any lists or anything like that. It just shows you abundance. But it does give you a really good overview, and that's what I like about it. And of course, the photos and audio and all that. That's one way to look up a bird and to get to know about it a little bit more, what eBird offers. But if we go back to explore, this is where we get into the really nitty gritty. And we click on species maps. Here, I did that a little bit soon. So this one right here, species maps. So some of you in questions that you asked talked about like, hey, how do I search for a specific bird species and, you know, be able to see like how recent it's been seen, what different hotspots it's been seen at, that sort of thing. And I love species maps for that, especially if I'm looking for a specific species and I want to know like what time of year or anything like that. We could use common merganser again, but let's use a different bird. What's another bird you guys want to look up? Anyone have a specific bird?
Cedar waxwing.
Okay, cool. Thank you for chiming in there. If it's just me talking, nobody wants that. All right. So you start typing it in, and you'll see the options pop up, and we'll click on cedar waxwing here. What it's going to do is it's going to give us like an overview of like where it's at all throughout the world. Let's see what it does. You can see mostly North America. Now, let's say, we can do it. Let's stick on this. Let's go into Tucson area. You can see that the darker colored, more abundant, of course, lighter, less abundant. And let's zero in here. Takes a little time sometimes. And when we zero in far enough, it's going to give us the actual hot spots. It'll be a little blue or a little red kind of balloons that come up to tell you where they've been seen recently. Now the red ones are recent, so in the past 30 days, I believe. I think that's past 30 days. It tells us down here. Yeah, recent. I think it's past 30 days. Now, this is a lot of information right here. You could kind of click on these and go through them. But hey, what if this also, all the blue ones kind of get in the way. So what if we just really want to know like what has been like this year or the past month? Or maybe you're like, let's say Alan coming here from Cincinnati, and you didn't really care what's in the last month because you're not going to visit here until September or October or something like that. we use the date function right here, and you have all these different options. We're on year-round, all years right now. We could do year-round past 10 years if we want to get rid of some of that historical data. Year-round current year, that would just be January, just the past 19 days. You could custom date it. So you could do like breeding season, summer, winter, or you could just pick whatever month that you're going to be visiting the area. Let's put November in there, and it's November. And then let's say we just want to do the past 10 years, and then let's see what pops up. Then you just do set date range. And here's what we have for the month of November in the past 10 years for cedar waxwings in Tucson. And this is a really cool function, especially like when you're going to visit somewhere and you're trying to figure out, all right, we'll be in San Antonio in January. What's the likelihood that I would see X species? And you could even, so then you could just click on these little balloons and it'll pop up. Okay, here's all the different times that it's been seen at Jesse Owens Park. And then you can click on the date, and it gives you the full list of what that person saw there. You can see if they put any notes in for it. You can see if they put in any pictures, what else they saw. And well, Chris had a really good day at Jesse Owens Park that day. Read the ground of all sorts of stuff. So it helps to be able to really zero in on what you're looking for. Now let me get back to this. Let's go back to year-round, all years. Okay, so it gives you that. Let's say you want to go just a certain location. You're only going to be in Tucson. You got half a day. The rest of the time, you're at a work function. But you're going to have just enough time to go to Sweetwater Wetlands, and you're wondering if you could see a, let's say, common gallinule. So you type in common gallinule here. You can enter in a place, name, or address right here. So you could, let's see, actually, let's see, I don't think you can type in, yeah, you can, Sweetwater Wetlands Park. And whether it's like a national park, or you can type in a city, you can type in trailheads, and then you can decide, which one you want to choose, and you just click on it. And then it takes you right to the area. This is your Sweetwater. You can see a lot of people have seen common gallinules here. Actually, I'd never really looked at this. A lot of people have submitted it not at the regular. So here's something I wasn't really thinking about touching. But when you're submitting an eBird checklist, try to always use the hotspot that's designated for that area. So you can see this is Sweetwater Wetlands hotspot, this big red one. And then all these other people have submitted their stuff at their own location that they created, which makes it harder to be able to sift through and see all the different sightings that they have. So it's just much more useful when you plug in your sightings to the actual hotspot. And so there's a little plug for that. See, anyone have any questions at this point?
Yes, I want to ask you, do you mean all these people, instead of choosing Sweetwater Wetlands as where they're reporting, all these people with these blue things created their own personal location?
Yeah. So
I'll
I'll show you. So
Sorry,
this is what happens
I
when
thought I must have misunderstood. Okay.
No, you're right. No, you didn't misunderstand at all. It usually happens when you're doing the checklist from your phone. And I was trying to figure out I couldn't figure it out how to connect my phone up to my laptop. I was planning on doing that, and I don't have the right connection. But when you submit a checklist from your phone, it asks you for, it gives you recommendations for the hotspot to submit your list to. But what it does first is it grabs your coordinates where you're at, and that could be a default that people use. And so you always want to search for if there is already a hotspot that's in that area.
Hey, Luke.
Yeah, Nancy.
If on that map you had of Sweetwater, for example, is there ever an advantage to people to let them know that, for example, you saw the bird more out by the parking lot than around the lake, and in which case you wouldn't want to just use the general spot?
No, I would say use the hotspot. You can see that most people have their hotspot right there at the parking area. And that's because that's when they get their phone out, right? They get their phone out and they start their checklist while they're there by their car. And that's the GPS coordinates that they get. And then they just submit it right to that, rather than taking just that one extra helpful little step to just click on the hotspot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not actually trying to tell you that they saw the bird up there in that northeast corner of the.
Nope. That's just them submitting it right here by their car. Yeah.
All right. Question. So I've been using an app called Bird Jar that I don't believe is supported anymore, where I've been keeping my observations and lists and everything. And it's supposed to have an option for uploading things to eBird, but I've never really had any success doing that. I think it had more to do with my phone than it does the app.
Yeah.
And so I'm afraid I'm going to have to start doing a lot of typing to get things caught up, because I believe eBird is where I should be living now.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say that eBird, if you want to enter in historical data like that, like past lists that you've done, it's fairly easy to do that. But then it's also as long as you have a smartphone and downloading the eBird app, it's really pretty intuitive to be able to use that and to start from here on out, keeping the list that way. It's amazing. I'll go to my eBird and just show you a little bit about what it looks like when you start keeping your list there on eBird. It gives you a whole, not only does it give you a list of what birds you've seen in your life or what photos you've taken, but it narrows it. It gives you all of your checklists here. You can search. It's amazing. Here, let's go to checklist. Manage my checklist. Actually, let me go back to that. Holy cow. The wormhole is starting to get deep, and it's starting to overwhelm me a little bit of what I want to share. But yeah, Alan, before I move on to that, I would just say that it's a really healthy program. I guess I would also say that if you want to submit past checklists, it's really easy to do so just by clicking location here. You pick your location, you can find it on map, and then you just start doing that. Or you might be able to import your data from that Bird Jar app too. You might be able to do that. Before I move on to something else, any other questions about actually finding birds on here?
Luke, there's a couple
species?
questions. There's a couple questions in the chat that you might want to answer.
Okay, I'm gonna
about
get
the
there. Oh, I
date-
see.
A date for the sighting.
Yeah, let me look here. let's see, do you have to have a date for the sighting? Oh, yeah, yep. That's a good question. So if you don't, yeah, because it's hard. Like if you're keeping track of the birds that you see and you don't have a certain date. So like you don't know on April 27th, 1988 that you saw a mallard. Maybe if you just know the month and the year, you could do that. And what you do, if that's the case, I would say if you know the month or the date, that's probably if you don't know the month or the date, then I'd say it's probably best not to put it into eBird. But what you would do, let's go over this real quick. Let's say I was at I've had a lot of historical stuff. Let's see, let's look at Pierce County. Let's go to Pierce, Washington, United States. So if you remember what county you saw it in, you can start there. And then what it does is it shows you all the different hot spots, and then also spots that you've created yourself to choose from. And so let's say that I want to do the spot right here, which is where I lived with my parents when I was a little kid at the rental house. You just hit continue. I know it was, let's see, I lived there from 86 to 87. So let's say you would just pick one of those years. Let's just say 91 for sake. And I don't remember what date, but I know it was in January. So I'll just say January 1. And then what you want to do is historical. Birding was your primary purpose, but you can't estimate the start time, duration, and distance. So you would hit historical. And then you would just go from there. Or you could do incidental, historical or incidental. I'd probably do the historical and just enter in whatever information you have. But you got to have some information. And like Laura says, Cornell doesn't use historical entries for scientific purposes. So you can make up a date. Yeah, as long as it makes sense. You don't want to try and put anything in there that might not be helpful. But so Jim asks, who determines or set up the hotspots? Yeah, so you can set up your own personal spot, but for hotspots, that does come from eBird reviewers. So like eBird reviewers in our area, they have names: Andrew Core, Lawrence Halsey, Mark Stevenson, so Molly Pollock. And so these eBird reviewers, they're volunteer, and there's a way to suggest hotspots. And actually, I kind of forget how to do that off the top of my head, but we might be able to get there today. But eBird reviewers are also, one of the questions that came in was who decides whether something is confirmed or not confirmed. And it's these eBird reviewers, and they get tons and tons of these checklists. You saw them all being submitted, and quite a few of the checklists have these birds that if you type it in, you got to, I know I saw 25 robins, but if I put in 25 robins, then I'm gonna have to put in notes for that. I don't really want to put in notes, so let me see. If I just type in 18, I don't have to put in notes, so I'll just do 18, so I don't have to put in notes. I've heard some people say that. Don't do that. Just put in the number that you saw, and then write in your notes of like how you saw them. I saw 25 in a flock, or I saw 23 in a flock going west, and then 5 minutes later I saw 2 more going west, or something like that. Those notes that you put in there for those species that have to be confirmed then go to the database for the reviewer. The reviewer looks at those notes, makes determinations whether those actually get accepted or not. If they don't, if they think that they have questions about it, then they'll email you and ask you about it. Don't take that email as something that's like bad. They're just trying to figure it out. and just respond to them, and you know they'll make their call or whatever. They do have a really tough job. So yeah, that's how they decide. And like when you from the eBird homepage, you can go and you can see down here at the bottom, let's see, the rarities, and you can see you just scroll, these are all January 19th, and you just keep scrolling through January 19th, January 19th, January 17th. I mean, they're only showing that like the tip of the iceberg here. Especially for Pima County, thousands of these get submitted in a week, and so it takes a little while sometimes. Let's see.
Fort DeSoto Park is one of my favorite places to bird.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
is that on here? Was that show up?
Yeah, Fort DeSoto, yeah, where the great black back gull says
Oh
Fort
yeah,
DeSoto
right
Park.
there. Oh, awesome.
I do have a question on submissions. I
Yeah.
went on a pelagic trip out of Westport, Washington, and they submitted the list for the whole group.
Yep.
I probably shouldn't submit my own list separately, or would that, would that confuse the data?
Did they share it with you?
Yeah, they shared the list.
Okay.
you know,
Yeah, so if they shared the list with you and you're able to accept that into your eBird, then yeah, no need to submit another one. It's already in your internet possession there, in your eBird database possession. Yep. All right, let's go in. Let's look at some hotspots. And we have some questions with that. Let's go into hotspots. Okay, so we talked about finding birds a little bit. Let's go and explore hotspots. So when it comes to locations or regions, there's a couple different ways to do it. I'll give an example that kind of benefits me. I'm going to the Beaumont area in February. And so you can type in, like if you explore region here and you type in Beaumont. Oh, nothing comes up for Beaumont, Texas. How does that work? I guess I have to know the county, state, province. Okay, I thought I could do it for region. Anyone know what?
Yeah, Luke, it has to be a county. Weirdly, they don't like
Yeah.
cities and towns.
All right,
Yeah.
well, let's look at a different county then. Let's one county that I know. How about Greenlee? That's in Arizona. So you just hit that and then it should populate. Okay. Here is an amazing explore function. You have Greenlee County. So wherever you're going to head, or whether it's somewhere where you live, you can type in the county and it just gives you so much information. Let's look through some of this. So it starts with the default. I have it changed because I was messing around with stuff. The default is last seen. So all of these sightings right here were the last time that someone submitted an eBird list from the county and the birds that they submitted. So you can see the different recent visits here on the right, the different checklists. And then this is just the last time the bird was seen in the county. So like if you go all the way down the bottom, all the way down there, you can, so they separate the exotics and the hybrids out of here. But you can see the spotted owl sensitive. So some bird species, the data just won't show up. So it just kind of gets put down to the bottom as sensitive. Spotted owl is real sensitive. Some other owls are as well. But roseau Picard was the, there hasn't been a roseau Picard seen in Greenlee County since July 22nd, 1983. So, you know, the birds that you're more likely to see will be up at the top of this list, but you can change that. So it's kind of cool to see, like, wow, a Picard hasn't been seen in Greenlee County since that time. But what you're probably more looking for is what's been seen recently. Or if you want to look at it a different way, you can go to first seen, click on first seen here. What bird was the latest to be added to the Greenlee County checklist? And it's winter wren. Winter wren was first seen in Greenlee County on November 22nd, 2022. And that was the first time it's ever seen. And so you can kind of see like, all right, what birds have been added to the list in the past few years. Or another way of doing it is high counts. And when you go to high counts, it just tells you what is the most great-tailed grackles that someone has ever documented in eBird in Greenlee County. So the most great-tailed grackles in one checklist, 250. And then this is all organized by date right here, but see, you can just arrange it however you want. You can arrange it by species name. You can arrange it by what are the highest counts. So you click on count right here. 2,510 yellow-headed blackbirds, 1,400 sandhill cranes. Those are the high counts for those species. And that's for all time. So all time, anytime that anyone's ever historical or otherwise downloaded something into eBird from Greenlee County, which is, it's amazing. And then you can go up here and you can change the location. You can do regions. So major regions like world, Western Hemisphere. You can go to other types of regions like counties or states. But then you can also go all the way down to hotspots, wildlife refuges, or IBAs. So let's look at a hotspot together, and let's choose something fun. Let's explore McGee Marsh. I don't know if you ever heard of McGee Marsh, but it's in Ohio. Amazing place for warblers in May. So let's go to. Well, there's Lucas and Ottawa. Let's go to Ottawa County. And it's going to bring up McGee Marsh. It's just thinking right now. But you can do this for any hotspot all around the world. All right, so it's reverted. It's still on my high counts, but let's see. We want to go to last seen. Let's go back to last seen. And right now it's, let's see, still separate by count. So we want to go to date. You can do it by species name, which puts it in taxonomic order. So whatever is, best for you. So like it puts all the ducks first. That's taxonomic order. Or you can go by date, which then puts what was seen and recorded there last. So you can see it right there. January 14th was the last time someone submitted a checklist there. And then you can see all the different recent visits. You can see also down here the top eBirders for that area and how many they've seen, or how many checklists. If you're into competing with people with how many checklists you submit somewhere. Gene Safford saw the most, has submitted the most checklists from this area. So it's kind of cool to see as well. But you can do that for any location and be able to see that information about those places. Let me look to the chat, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to let's take a moment to breathe a little bit, and any questions you might have. Yeah, Pam said, I'm going to show you some different eBird Cornell Lab bird courses that would be able to give you go even deeper into some of these different things. So Pam, you're definitely right there. And then, I'm going to show you frequently asked questions as well. Nancy says there's an explanation on the eBird side about how to enter those historical birds into your complete life list. Yeah. Hundreds and hundreds of submissions to log. Yep, that's where it's at, Susan. Definitely explore hotspots. Enter a location that's more specific than county. That's right. So if you go to explore and you go to this explore hotspots, I think that was it. Let's see here. Oh, I see. Over here, the location. See, I tried to remember all this too. So you can, the location is on your right. So if you don't know the hot spots in areas, so like I know Big Thicket is in Beaumont, so I could probably type in Big Thicket over here for a hotspot name. But if I don't know any of those areas, like you're going to somewhere where you don't know, you can type in Beaumont here and it brings up the cities. So Beaumont, California, Beaumont, Texas, Beaumont, Alberta, and you can click on the city and it takes you to that city and shows you the different hotspots there. And once you type in that, then the little balloons come up with this number of, it shows you the diversity of species at those hotspots. So the orange and red being most diverse, the light blue being the less diverse. So that's a really good way of being able to search for something that way. Okay. Let's go to a few other really cool things here. Does anyone here, any of you signed up for alerts? eBird alerts? No?
Yes,
Maybe
I have.
Laura or Hindi. Okay, yeah. So if you go to my eBird, so from the eBird, main eBird page, you go to my eBird, and then from your my eBird page, you'll have, all these pages have like a whole host of different options. On the left, say manage my checklist, locations, trip reports, alerts. So let's click on alerts. I'm not signed up for any alerts, by the way, but this is a question that came in of how do I get an alert for specific birds rather than areas? So here's how you can do that and how you can sign up for these alerts. So there's a few different options for this. There's ABA rarity. So there's people who like want to know whenever there is a code 3, which is a rare bird for the Canada, United States area, which is the American Birding Association. So you can subscribe for that, and anytime like someone sees a pink-footed goose or something like that, you'll get email alerting you that there is a pink-footed goose being seen in New York or something like that. You can sign up for rare bird alerts just for the area that you live in or an area that you're interested in. So you could just type in the region, let's say Yakima County, Yakima, Washington, United States. That'll come up. You would click on that, and then you would hit subscribe, and then it'll start sending you emails whenever there's a rare bird like a northern mockingbird or great-tailed grackle that's seen in that area. That's one way of doing it. And maybe if you're looking for something that's more specific to birds rather than the area or region, this is more region-based, needs alert may be the thing that you want to look into. You do have to enter in a region as well, but what this does is it's not just for rare birds, but it's like it says, it's designed to deliver information particularly tailored to the birds that you've not seen either all time or within the current year. So you could type in Pima and say, I want to have an alert sent to me every time that there's a bird I haven't seen in Pima come to me, which would be crazy all the time for me. That's why I'm not getting any of these alerts, is because I don't want that volume of emails. But then you can subscribe that way, say this year only, or birds I haven't seen ever in Pima County, it would send a email to me as, hey, there's a Caspian tern at Lakeside Park. You don't have this yet for your year. And so I would get those. So that's something that you might be interested in. Any questions about alerts?
Yeah, I was curious how long between when the bird is recorded and when they tell you.
That's a good question. Since I'm not signed up for alerts, does someone have an answer for Sandy?
I think it's pretty close to real time. As people submit their checklists, they go into the database, and I suspect, you know, unless you sign up for alerts like once a day, maybe it sifts through them once a day. But
Laura, so you're signed up for that?
yeah, I have done it once, but I had the same issue you did, which is you get a lot of long emails that aren't all that helpful. Although if you really decide, hey, today's the day that I'm going to go out and look for rare birds, you might just set your alert up and have it give you an email for a day or two ahead of time, and then turn it off, because you can easily come in and out of this thing and turn the alerts on or off.
That's a really good point.
Oh,
That's a really good
Susan
point.
has an answer. There's answers in chat actually to the question that was asked.
And I get the alerts I have for the rarities, I get them hourly. So to answer that question, whenever people submit their lists, once an hour, it looks at all of the whatever you've asked for, and it goes out hourly. And then as someone just said, I also get my needs alert for daily. And so those don't always come out at the same time every day. So it could be 24 hours or more since the bird was seen. So that's why I get most of my alerts hourly, so I can be on top of a rare bird.
That's right. Peggy, I didn't know you were on the call. I know you get those alerts. That's great. Thank you so much for that. And I'm looking forward to Santa Cruz Flats with you tomorrow.
Me too.
All right. Very good. All right. Hey, here's a couple of different functions that maybe don't get used very often, but I think are pretty neat. Let's look at one of those right now. Let's go to is it Explore? Yes, Explore. All right. This is Explore function is definitely what I use most. And along with alerts, target species, let's go to patch totals. I really like the patch totals, and whether it's both patch and yard totals. I think it's a fun thing for those of us who like to bird our yard, or a certain area that we really like. And especially the patch, let's talk about that. So I'm going to click on patch totals here, and I have a few different patches that I've created, and it's really easy to create a patch. And I think it's helpful to just kind of, for a few reasons. I'll show you the patches that I have and why I like it. So I have a 7.5 mile radius patch. That's what that means is it's kind of like a Chris's bird count, where you have this 15-mile diameter circle that we count every year, and we go out into these big teams and try to count all the different birds in our circle. And each of those Chris's bird count circles has a center, right? And so for the 7.5 mile radius patch challenge, my house is a center of that circle. And I like to see how I can do with how many birds I can see within that range throughout the year. It's just something that I kind of have fun doing. And so I have that set up, and basically I looked to see what was in my circle, and I just added all the different hot spots into that. I'll show you how to patch and how to do that. I also have a 5 mile radius one as well. I was doing that with some friends. But I think the best function is for like general areas that you really bird a lot, that encompass multiple different hot spots, but you want to be able to get that hotspot information together. So I created this for the Sweetwater Columbus Park area, So they're right kind of next to each other with the Santa Cruz River going in between. And I used to bird at the Columbus Park area a lot more than what I do now when I lived a little bit closer. Of course, I still bird Sweetwater a lot. But along with, you can, let's see, let's click on this button right here. So don't want to do the trash can, but the button next to it, which shows you a little bit how to edit your patch. So I picked a name for it, and then I decided which hotspots I wanted to put into that patch. So Tucson Home Walk, that was where I lived, really close to that area. Of course, Christopher Columbus Park, my Tucson home, which is right there, and then Sweetwater Wetlands. I wanted to combine those together so I could see what I was seeing in those areas. And then I saved it, and then now it's putting out this information that I see. Let's go back to show you one more, might be a little bit. So also when I was living in Yakima, Washington, there was this long stretch of the Yakima River where there was a pathway that went all along the river, but it was comprised of multiple different hotspots. So it's a pretty long area along the river. And I wanted to be able to see what birds I was seeing throughout that whole section. I couldn't do that by just looking at one hotspot. So I think this will show it a little bit better. So I included all these different hotspots: Sarge Hubbard Park, Yakima Area Arboretum, Pop-Off Trail, Yakima Greenway, Buchanan Lake. These are all specific hotspots. So I didn't just, the Greenway is big enough, like let's say different refuges are big enough where there's different hotspots throughout the refuge. And you want to be able to see, all right, what am I seeing at Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge? We can't just go and look at one thing. You have to then look at all of them. But if you have them combined in this patch, you can go and say, all right, here's my Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge or my Yakima Greenway bird species list. And so you can you decide what's going to go in your patch and save it. And then it'll share with you all the different birds you saw in that area. And I think it's good for like big areas, like let's say another area in Arizona that would make sense to do something like this would be maybe the parks in urban Tucson, or Mount Lemmon. Like, what's your Mount Lemmon patch list? Well, hard to know how many birds you've seen along the Catalina Highway because you have Gordon Hirabashi campground checklist, you have your Bear Canyon, you have Summer Haven, you have Rose Canyon Lake. Well, you can combine all those and be able to see, like, if you want to keep a Mount Lemmon checklist or something like that. And then of course, people always want to compare themselves to each other. So you have the patch leaders down here, and you can see how you're ranked in those areas, and for all these different time periods, life, year, month, complete checklist. So lots of different options, but I think it's one that's not utilized very often and one that's kind of fun to be able to see, especially if you're really focused on a certain area. Does anyone else use patch lists or had any experience with that? No? All right. Well, hopefully maybe this will encourage you to do so. And you can do the same thing with your yard totals as well. So I'll just click on yard totals right there. So this is where I currently live, Catalina Terrace, my yard. And I haven't done it for the other yards where I've lived, but I just started it for where I'm at right now. So I have 65 species that I've seen for my yard right here in Midtown Tucson. The last one I added was a peregrine falcon. Oh, that was really good. I remember that. But I would encourage you to start a yard list. It helps you just kind of appreciate the birds right in your yard, and you can then I guess you can compare yourself to other people as well. You can change the region up here. So in all these different like explore functions, you can always change the region. You can change the date, time periods, region and time periods are just pretty nifty. Let's see. Let's go back to explore. Anyone have any questions up to this point? I think we'll probably go here for like another 5 or 10 minutes. Any specific questions that you really want me to touch on?
I have one, Luke.
Yeah, Ken.
So this past hour, it's almost overwhelming how complete and complex eBird is. It's like this avalanche of information. And so being new to birding and eBird, this morning I was at Agua Caliente, and our leader, Marcia, I think it was, saying there's a tutorial, which is how she learned eBird. And it would be helpful to have like a step-by-step approach for a beginner, you know, to like first thing I log in and all that sort of thing. So can you tell me how to find that tutorial and where that is?
Yep, perfect. That's kind of what I was going to end with. That's a really good thing. So let's start from the eBird main page. Go to ebird.org home. Then you can go to, there's a couple, you can go to help.
Okay.
And yeah, the help is probably going to be the best spot. And so if you're having questions about, you've never done an eBird list before and you just want to, you're just now getting into it, then you click on get started with eBird and it'll take you step by step of how to create an account. It'll show you, like, I think it was Laura who mentioned some different courses that are offered as far as eBird. If you search on our YouTube channel, Holly Kleindienst, one of our volunteer field trip leaders, she does a great job. I think on our eBird channel, we have some eBird 101 classes that you can look at. But also show you how to submit bird checklists and all that. So getting started with eBird is, and then for some of you who you've already started with eBird, you've already started doing some of that, but maybe you need some help with your eBird mobile app. So you can click the getting started and get some more information about eBird mobile. Or maybe, you know, you're trying to figure out, all right, how do I go about counting how many mallards I see out here? How do I go about knowing how many bird numbers to put down into this? Like, it's hard for me to figure that out, which it is. You can, but eBird Next Steps, how to count birds. It sounds easy, but sometimes we tend to just make it more complicated than what it needs to be. And that's what I tell folks is, hey, you know, yeah, you don't need to be exact. Although sometimes I find myself trying to be exact. But all these different questions, if you have questions, you can go and check out. This helps. Yeah, Kathy, I see your hand up.
Yeah, for people that are brand new, one very easy introduction to eBird is the Great Backyard Bird Count, which is February 17th to 20th, because they use eBird as the platform, but it guides you through it. It doesn't expect you to be an eBird expert at all. And you know, I used to do Great Backyard Bird Count before I really even knew about eBird, and then I was like thrilled to learn that I had been using eBird. So if you've never done it and you would like to be guided through the whole thing, just sign up for the Great Backyard Bird Count and it'll take you through, and it's in 1 month.
Yeah. Here, let's look at that. Yeah, because they are paired together. You see Cornell Lab up here in the top left, and you go Great Backyard Bird Count, click on it to learn more about it, and then it'll take you through that. It's a good step towards creating your home patch as well, because you're counting birds right there at your place in your backyard. And I think, yeah.
Is Project Feeder Watch linked into this too?
I think it is. I think it is. That one I'm not sure, but let's look. I think it is. Yep, Cornell Lab right there. Yep, so it'll be part of that as well. You can go to enter and view your data. I'm pretty sure that it also links up with eBird. Yeah. Here's one other cool thing that here, let's do this. Let's go to Explore. Who this is a funny question. Who likes spying on people? Anyone here like to spy on people? You don't have to say yes. I'm not saying whether I do or not either. But let's type in Sweetwater wetlands. Let's go to the hotspot. This might be an easy way of doing it. And you can see all the different, let's see, let's go to recent visits. Let's click on more recent visits over here on the right. And you can see all the different people who have submitted checklists from the past few days. Oh, here's Jerry Hodge. And you see his name is in blue. You see that Nancy Trimmer not in blue, so you can't click on it. But some of these names you can click on. Oh, there's me. You can click on my name. But it's kind of like a birder Facebook a little bit. So let's click on Jerry. He's one of our field trip leaders, volunteer field trip leaders. And so I'll pick on him a little bit. Let's click on Jerry. And some eBirders put a little picture on their eBird handle. And I'll show you how you can do this too. So they got a picture, how long they've been an eBirder. So Jerry's been doing it since November 2014. His oldest checklist is July 1995, so a historical checklist that you put in there. It also shows like media, that means pictures or sound, that type of stuff. And then you can write like a little blurb about yourself. And then what it does, it also shows like how many bird species he's seen, checklists, all this different stuff. You can see where he's been, so you can kind of follow him, like where he's birded and all that. And look at his pictures, and you can change the region. So let's just look at Jerry in Arizona. Isn't this crazy information? Click on Arizona, United States. And it'll show you the different counties he's birded and how many bird species he's seen in each county. And then, of course, his checklist down here as well. So if you are looking at if you go to Explore and you want to compare your totals, now some of us, we're not competitive, are we? But maybe we are. And you can type in Pima County in the region. Time period, let's do 20 this year, and then rank by species. So this will show us who's seen the most species in Pima County for this year so far. I'm 180, I don't even know how to say that, 181st. So I'm way down there. I'm 56. Shows you what I've been doing lately, not birding. Tim is first. And so be like, man, Tim has seen so many birds. And so I want to explore, see what Tim's been, where he's been going. And so then you can go down here and see, oh, yeah, he's seen all these different birds. It doesn't show, maybe he's able to, you can kind of hide, like if you want the places that you go to or not on there, but you can see where he's at. And then to create a profile like this, which is kind of fun, you just go to your My eBird, and then there should be a function. I think if you click on your name, it'll right up here on the top right. The first one will be profile, and you can create your profile there if you want. And it's kind of fun. Not something you have to do, but gives that option to then put a picture with your spot and then tell a little bit about yourself, and then you can have all your stuff on here. Or you can just use it to spy on other people, like probably many of us do with Facebook. So we're running out of time. Like I said, I could keep on going on this, but I think it's time to wrap up. But any last questions to answer before we sign off here? I'll look in the chat too.
I have a beginner's question. I noticed that some of the reports, instead of listing a number, they just put an X. Is that frowned upon? Is that all right?
That's a great question. Is that frowned upon? By some people, yes. Not that big of a deal. Especially if you're doing historical, you can put X, like, you know, if you had your list and you're like, oh, I had a great blue heron at Nisqually, and I just marked that I saw it. I have no idea if I saw 5 or 15 or 30. So you can just put an X and that's fine. A lot of times people will put an X when like you're eBirding a hotspot and you don't have the time or the wherewithal to like count every red-winged blackbird you see. And you know you saw a red-winged blackbird, but you weren't really paying attention to quantity. You can just put an X and that's fine. I would say there's something about trying to come up with a number that seems right. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think sometimes our desire to try and be exact and perfect kind of makes us feel guilty for putting an X there. But don't worry about it. If that's what's better for you, then that's fine too. That's fine too. But like as Pam says, eBird doesn't encourage the use of X, but sometimes that's just what you have to do. Yep, Sandy, this will be, we'll send out the video link for this later, and then we'll put it up on our YouTube channel too. I may not get to do that today, but I will do that soon. Susan asked, can you create lists of people to follow the way you can with iNaturalist? No, I haven't been able to figure that out. That would be fun. And I think that could be a good next step for eBird. But I haven't been able to figure that out. Laura put a good online course from Cornell that'll help with knowing how to use eBird and those main parts there. Oh, and Deb mentions the quizzes, identification quizzes. We didn't get to that, but yeah, that's for another day. So, yeah, and Peggy's right. They can't use the X in the data, which is why they want the number. Let's see. Kathy, yes. So that was covered. And I won't have time to go back into that right now, but definitely watch the video when it comes out. I should be able to share with you soon, but probably not today. All right. Awesome. Any last words? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Thank you so much for being part of this. And I don't know how deep we actually went in eBird, but we tried our best with the time we were allotted. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll try to help you out as I can. So have a good one, and we'll see you all again soon.
Thank you.
See you later.